It's Sunday night, 8 o'clock. Welcome to All Lacrosse Live in a much warmer Toronto than it was a week ago. We're almost finding the streets now. Almost. There's only about 14 feet of snow all over the place. And, side streets are now one way. You get to play chicken everywhere you go. It's great. Those with bulldozers and vehicles, they're having a great old time, just kind of scaring the small cars on the road. But, hey, it's better than it was last week. We don't have 52 feet of snow falling down, and I'm thankful. I like it. With me, as always, I have got Shawn Slaght, and look at that beautiful jersey you're wearing. Oh, my.
There we go. Yeah, Team Canada. Go, Canada, go.
Can't wait to see Caden flying his bird. I mean,
yeah.
Something like that.
Like I said, pro tip, guys, when you're in overtime, don't let the best player in the world wide open in the slot. He's going to score. Yeah, he's going to score.
Yeah, I don't know that Caden's going to be flying his bird. He might be flipping
one.
Some bird's going to be going somewhere. I'm just not sure where it's going to wind up. And, of course, me over in Connecticut, I've got Muffler Mike, our honorary Canadian. Mike, how are you?
I'm doing good.
It's the ref's fault when the team wins. Exactly. And Shawn, of course, is celebrating his 9-2 record. Still the best, most wins in the league. Me,
right.
Inconclusive. You might as well that's the swear word to me now. I'll tell exactly how to get there. But anyways, before we get rolling, just a reminder to everybody that all of our shows are streamed live across Facebook, Instagram Live, Twitter, YouTube, also Twitch. You can hit the subscribe, follow, and like buttons. Please tell everybody about us. Please enjoy all of our affiliates on the Streampunk Network, which include the Pat Bernard Show, Attacking Third, Steel Steps, Soccer and Football post-game shows, CFL shows, cinema shows, all kinds of things for everybody. If you missed a show, no worries. You can grab all the shows at YouTube at either Streampunk Sports or All Across all the time for any of our shows, which include our library of shows, interviews, press conferences, fights, retro games, all kinds of stuff. Remember, you can stay up to date with all sports by visiting streampunkentertainment.com with great articles from our huge staff of contributors. And just a reminder that our show is brought to you by 60. 60 is Canada's newest and most exciting sports uniform and teamwear brand, delivering top quality uniforms and teamwear that reflects the spirit and identity of each team. Their commitment to innovation and excellence sets them apart, ensuring that every customer experiences the perfect blend of style and functionality. Unleash your greatness with 60. Also add Laxtalk 10 for a 10% discount on your order. If you're looking to take a look at some of the stuff, number one, you can hit the QR code that is on the screen right now, or go to Instagram, sweet_60. And also you can DM Jim over there, or you can send Jim an email at info.sweet60@gmail.com, or you can go onto their website at www.sweet60.ca/60. Great stuff and affordable. And I've said it many times. If you are an American, why would you want to pay full dollar when you can use the strength of the American dollar on a Canadian market? If you are Canadian, why do you want to hit with that ridiculous, what do we call it now? I don't know. It's not
tariff. Shipping?
No, it's not tariffs. No, it's just our exchange is brutal.
Yeah.
You lose 35% right away. But why not deal with a Canadian company? Stay in Canada. Shop Canadian. We're making Canada great again. Anyways, let's get on to lacrosse. This is as far as political as I want to go. Tariffs. You get 25% more lacrosse now. Look at that.
Hey.
Anyways, a bit of news. So again, I'm starting off with sad news. Greg Williams, Shawn Williams' dad, passed away this week. Former Redmond, Brooklyn Lacrosse Club for you politically correctors. But that was last weekend. So Our best to Sean Williams and his family, Dyson and all. A reminder about the Women's Box Lacrosse Global Network tournament that is going to be happening in July from the 11th to the 13th over in beautiful BC. They're inviting all competitive all-star teams, top club teams, and individual players to submit expression of interest to help them assess interest and plan accordingly. Please fill out the short EOI form by February 28th if you're interested in attending. You can go onto their Instagram and get it there, or you can go onto their website and pick it up there. A couple of bits of news from around the leagues. Randy Stotts hit 600 career points last week. Congratulations, Randy. Man, he's on fire, eh? When we're talking about him, ever since we were talking about him taking too many shots and not scoring, he's been scoring.
Yeah.
I guess we're what ails them. The power we yield. Zed Williams is going and been re-signed to the Water Dogs. So that's a big boost over there to make sure that he's staying there through 2027. Now, that brouhaha that had everybody going with Toronto and Buffalo a few weeks back, well, the hammer fell down. It only fell down on one person. And ironically, it wasn't one that caused it. It fell down on Rusty Kruger, offensive coach of the Toronto Rock. He had a one-game suspension. So Dan Dawson stepped behind the bench last night as the offensive coordinator for the Toronto Rock. Interesting, eh? Kruger's the only one who took one. I guess because they didn't like the way he straightened Dietrich's tie. But, Dawson cross-checks Dan Craig in the back of the head, and that's okay. You see where I'm going with all this, right? Toronto had some more great news. Brian Cameron's on the IR now as the injury bug continues to go through the entire Rock lineup. But in true Rock fashion, we were talking about this just last week of where Nathan Grennan should wind up. Well, he wound up in Toronto for a year. So we'll see how he did. He looked pretty good last night. Looked pretty good. It looks like having a Josh Dawick on the other side of the floor now. But we'll talk more about that afterwards. The PLL, we were talking about the Sixes tournament and the WLL. And a few finals for you. Well, remember we talked about how the Cannons squeaked into the finals by the skin of their teeth, tying the game up with 1.4 seconds left, and then winning in overtime because Kirst, their goalie, stood on his head. And I believe it was also physically as well as emotionally because he did everything to stop things. It was wild. Well, he just continued along the next day in the championship. And, well, the Cannons won 21-14 over the Archers, and they've won back-to-back championships now. That was a great game. Boy, if you never had a chance to watch Sixes and are squawking about it, you know what? Yeah, it's not my choices box either, but, pretty good game. And it's a pretty quick game. And, it's got a lot of similarities. So I think you all enjoy it. And besides, it's there. Take it. The women, the WLL, and Boston won there too, the Boston Guard. And they won 22-17 over New York. New York can't catch a break. Eh? They just, they can't win it either. But, funny enough, looking at it, the Golden Sticks went to Emily Harrischuk in the women. And she had a great series, man, playing for New York. And if you look on the PLL site, there's a couple of Twitter feeds of just incredible goals that she scored. Just amazing. It's so great to see that kind of thing. And Matt Campbell won the Golden Stick in the men's. So great to see that. Alrighty, let's move further along. In Arena Lacrosse League, we had quite the weekend. We started out Friday night at the Children's Arena in Oshawa, and well, the Toronto Monarchs beat the Oshawa Outlaws 16-10. Great defensive battle played by both teams. It had Toronto slightly in the lead 5-3 at the half. Oshawa started strong, jumping out to a 2-0 lead. Toronto came back with a hat trick by Tanner Buck to gain a 2-goal advantage. Second half, again, the Outlaws scored first when John St. John converted a Jake Gilmore feed, but then the roof fell in. The Monarchs exploded for 8 goals in the third quarter, including a 5-goal run at the end of the quarter. Tanner Buck continued his hot night with another 3-goal explosion in that quarter. They tried to come back, Oshawa did, with John St. John and Gareth Hay, but 3 more goals from the Monarchs iced the game. On Saturday, the early game had the Six Nations Snipers and the Peterborough Timbermen, and Six Nations was able to put together an entire game, which is awesome to see, and they beat the Timbermen 16-9. First quarter was evenly played, with both teams matching each other goal for goal. As the first quarter ended, the Snipers started to put together the beginnings of a 6-goal run that ran almost the entire second quarter. Second half was a little bit more like the first quarter, with defense shining for both sides. Aaron Woods and Cam Milligan tried to bring the Timbermen back, but a natural hat trick from Thunder Hill quashed that idea. Six Nations put together a complete 60-minute 16-9 victory. The late game Saturday had Paris facing Whitby. Now, Paris has been playing really well. They had their first little bump in the road last week, and, this one didn't go so well either. Even though Paris played a really solid first half, they jumped out to a 2-0 lead. The Steelhawks fought back. They were up 9-5 at the half, but the second half, they just showed how dominant they were. They outscored Paris 14-4 in the second half. 9 separate scorers in those 14 goals. That's one hell of a team. I think they got the wake-up call when Brampton beat them. And, it takes all the pressure off when you have things like that happen. You don't have to worry about a perfect season. And the last game was today. It was where am I here? I'm ahead of myself. It was the Express facing the Oswego Bears. And to Oswego's credit, they really had one little blip in that game, and that cost it. It was 14-10 for the final. It looked like Brampton was going to run away with it. They were up 9-3 midway through this game, and Oswego put together a run with thanks to, I believe it was Chris Atwood and Eddie Renault. Both had big games for Oswego. So don't sleep on this team, because whenever you don't think that they're going to do nothing, they are going to come and bite you. So they are a bunch of fighters. So upcoming next weekend, you have the Steelhawks facing the Outlaws in Oshawa Saturday. You have the Express facing the Timbermen in the late game Saturday. You then have the Monarchs facing the Oswego Bears on Sunday in the early game at the ILA. And the Six Nations Snipers are facing the Paris River Wolves in the later game. That's going to be a great game. So if you have an opportunity to get out to the ILA next Sunday afternoon, 2 great games on the docket there. Well, look, Eduardo's with us.
Hey, Eduardo.
Back in St. Augustine. All right, without further ado, we're going to bring on our Wolves correspondent, even though he's going to be joined soon by our Wings Nest correspondent. But let me just give me a second here. Thank you. Here's Caden Balint. Caden, how are you?
Call me out on something that I will not answer. I will 100% answer every challenge.
Well then, let me just show you this.
Yes.
The bird is not free.
Coming.
The bird is not free.
Where's that free?
I jumped in. I'm like,
You
I'm
went
just
like
going to
this.
be curious about the start. They're going to say something, and I saw the jersey, and then you're like, well, Caden's not going to do anything. What do you think Caden's going to say? The bird. You could see it in my title, Freed.
The second best nation in hockey.
That's not bad. That's not bad.
This is
Like my dad always told me, work very, very hard, but whatever you do, always come in second.
Well, you ain't first, you last.
Well, I can add to this one because Pat isn't here yet to gloat, but we're all doing a bit of crying here.
Caden, how we?
Caden is 6-2. Yeah, Caden actually at 2-5 with the rest of us, and sorry. It was a slip of the keyboard. I'm sorry.
But, I'm taking the 6.
We gave you hope, and then we just took it away.
I'm taking the 6-2, and it could have been 7-2 if I picked Albany, but I just.
The funny thing is that Pat didn't pick Philadelphia and Caden didn't pick Albany. I found that amazing.
Yes, that's funny.
I found it amazing. I sank in the ship of the Toronto Rock, but again, does it hurt when you lose by 10, or does it hurt more when you lose by 1? And I'm telling you for a fact. It hurts a lot more when you lose by 1. And I've done it 3 in a row now. So I'm getting real good at this. That's 5 times this year.
Yeah, I've experienced both. So I don't know, because I think it is harder to lose by 1, because I was talking to a fan yesterday before and during the game, and how every time we were in each game, he was like, we were in each game each time, each and every night. And then that one thing happened and we lost it. And I mean, it's good to get that win. They were no fan was really happy. No player was happy. No coach was happy about that really tough loss last week to Ottawa, and to come back with another arguably probably their best game next to the Toronto Rock performance. I would say, Dougie making 46 total saves. They win 11-6, which also shout out Dougie, 5,000 career minutes in the game he hit.
Right.
And what was really impressive is 23 of 25 in the first half from Dougie. He really, took a bigger leap after last week's performance, after getting pulled, and he kind of settled himself. They did talk with him. Coach said it in the post game that they talked with Dougie after the Ottawa game and leading up to Philadelphia, and how they could kind of help him more. And arguably one of the best ways to help him was getting back a defensive piece, and Jackson Nishimura did come back yesterday. And something I noticed with the Nishimura addition is that Albany played a lot more physically. They were right on top of Philadelphia shooters. They were right in front of their faces. They were not letting them get, anything fully on. And that was something that I kind of really noticed. And I kind of felt like it was the Nishimura effect. And even talking with coach, and we got to talk to John Piatelli after the game, even getting the chance to
clips of them, both of them for you. But I have something for you before we get any further. I dug this out as I was digging through for some other stuff, and this came across my thing there. Oh, I got the wrong one. Why don't I go with this one?
That one's way better.
Yeah, Driscoll's when I started going with my Rochester stuff, because this is a double entendre shirt, because not only did Rochester win this weekend, but this particular Rochester team, which we call Halifax now, won also. But hey, I'm getting ahead of myself. Hey, well, without further ado, let's bring in your tag team partner, and you've won gloating rights now, so everybody, hang on, this could be a wild ride. Here is Pat Bernard, fresh from the Pat Bernard Show. Look at you guys are coming to join us there in the basement. It's nice to see you.
Come on, Pat. You're coming with us. There we go. Hi, fella. How are you feeling?
Elevator going down. I had to bring something in the stuff that I was digging out just to remind me that we are a championship team. I brought out
Whipper.
I brought out Josh Anderson. Just to remind me that we have the Rosie.
I'm gonna need that Clarky one.
You're part of that thing. For you Steelers fans, yes, this is where it all began. I actually was looking for, and I'm not crazy because the Toronto Rock, we have these playing cards come out now, but we had cards years ago, and I didn't think I was nuts. I knew I had some around, and I can't seem to locate them in all the all the to do in here, all the other stuff that I have around here. But I did find one of them. I found Mike Hoffman from a Generation Rock era, so I know these cards exist. I just have to find them. But anyway, I'll let you guys. Pat, you've come too. Welcome.
I don't know if I want.
I was going to say, but before we get to Pat, I want to ask Caden what he thought about the little coaching change there in Albany with the offensive and defensive coordinators basically swapping roles this week.
So that's exactly what they did. Mark Singlis asked Coach about it, and he did confirm that they did make that swap. And it was good to see the perspective of another coach on that side, and it felt like kind of felt like the perspective of it. I just want to get this correct. So the swap was that Clem DeRazio took over the offensive coordinator positioning while Daryl Gibson took over the defensive coordinator positioning. And I think it worked out great. I think the defense really kind of locked down a lot more in that game. I already mentioned Jackson Nishimura, and I had previously talked to Coach before the game with Clarky about Mike Byrne, who, in my opinion, in a tough season, has really stepped up for Albany in a spot that they've also seen a lot of injuries. Nishimura has been out for a lot of the season. Captain Colt went down for a little bit of time. A lot of moving parts on that back end, and Mike Byrne has kind of been one steady piece for Albany this entire season. Coach agreed. And I feel like seeing the perspective from another coach is what was the biggest part for me, because
we have Clark to give that bit of insight too. So you want to give that a listen to for a minute?
Well, Coach, like you just said, what a difference a week makes. What can you say about this week's performance compared to last week's?
A lot. Obviously it was better. There was different aspects to it. We did, we made a conscious effort, change our defensive system. We were using the system that we had last year, had some success with it. For whatever reason, it wasn't working, and Dougie wasn't getting the shots that he wanted. So we actually changed our defensive system completely. Talked with Dougie a little bit about it, and just obviously he bounced back and seemed more comfortable tonight. So that was good.
And talking about the defense, Nishimura making his return, what can you say about his impact, not only for the team, but the defense in general?
Yeah, I think when you couple getting Watkinson and Nish back, you're adding 20% to your defense, right? Of veteran guys where we don't have a lot of veterans. So you saw it. Colton was exceptional tonight. He was really good. Nish, for not playing for a long time, just sort of positional and knocking balls down and stretching the floor and protecting the ball. All things that add up throughout the course of 60 minutes.
Did you flip coordinators?
We did.
Yeah.
That was another thing we did.
Daryl and Clem.
Yeah. So we had planned to switch our defense, and then we talked about switching the coaches, and the thought process was, if we're going to flip them, and both of them are, Clem's actually more of an offensive guy, but he's, he can do either, and same with Daryl. So we thought if we're going to change our system, now would be the time. And we've talked about it in the past, like switching them around. But we thought if we're going to implement a new defensive system, we might as well do it now so that, the verbiage, the talking points, everything is, it's new, but Daryl gets to own it. He's not trying to talk to Clem's dialogue and not trying to talk to Clem's system. He can make it his own. And that was part of the reason. The other reason was, quite frankly, we needed a shake-up. We needed to shake up and change some things, and that's what we did.
Yeah, is it kind of like a desperate time to call for desperate measures kind of thing? It's pretty radical changes.
Yeah, but it was, yes, it was a shake-up, but it was strategic as well. I mean, we were planning on changing the defense, so it was sort of, Gibby's played that defense at the NLL level. He's coached in Senior A, so he's comfortable with it. So it was definitely, to shake things up, but it was also strategic in the way that it's now we can have, a guy make it his own, and then Clem can add a voice to the O and change that. So
that explains that pretty well, doesn't it?
Clarkey, he said it best. I mean, they needed a switch up, and I think that switch up proved well. And it's no callback on, like, we were just talking. I was just talking about Nishimura. It's no callback on that, but it's letting a new perspective take over let a new perspective take over. And like he mentioned, like, Clem's already an offensive guy. Let him take his offensive runs. Let Daryl do his defensive runs. And I'm curious to see how this Friday is going to go, honestly.
Right. Pat, what's your take on all this?
Where do you want me to start? You know what? I think my man Muffler Mike said it best. He said, Pat, I don't know how you saw through the crystal ball because, witness this demise of this team that's kind of been having wins. It's weird. The Philadelphia Eagles is a complete opposite. The Philadelphia Eagles had a slow start and obviously won the Super Bowl. This team's a complete opposite. They had a red-hot start, and now they look like they can't get themselves off the canvas after facing that Buffalo team. I mean, yes, they beat the Warriors, but I'm telling you, something has not been right at all. Nick Demu has given up double-digit goals in 3 straight games. I could start there. I could start at the fact that Ty Kurtz was unleashing hell on this team. I mean, he was shooting those from distance shots, long ball, low ones, got right through Nick Demu's feet. He shot one that was, he came down, took one in the lane. But there's team not, and Shawn, I know you and I talked about this. This problem doesn't just have problems on defense and missing assignments. The offense, there's nothing creative that these guys do all throughout the course of this game, maybe other than 2 goals, except for the Phil Caputa goal and the Blaze Reardon one. Every shot was from outside. They were trying to get too cute from outside, trying to do something fancy from outside. And other than Brandon O'Neill, who shot a laser, and Mitch Jones that happened to got one in there was really nothing. I mean, I got to give the Firewolves a lot of credit here. They kept this Philly offense from coming nowhere near close or coming down the lane. They kept they kept those guys to shoot from outside, and they couldn't do it. They couldn't get the job done. I mean, that's the Firewolves defense was giving this Red Wings team everything. All you had to do was just drive the ball down the lane, and they didn't. They were just thinking too cute. Let's just shoot from the outside. And like I said, credit to the Firewolves defense to play it to the hand. We'll just keep them and we'll push them to shoot from the outside.
So the one thing I have to ask is, in only 20 minutes of play, not what did make 19 saves. Do you give Not the look next week?
Oh, it's funny because desperate times are calling for desperate measures right now. As I just heard, you know what I mean? This is that you have to give not the heads up now. Nick Dimu is giving up multiple goals, double-digit goals. You're going to have to shake up. Look, he tried to shake up this team last night, and it really nothing budged. But, I mean, we're at the point now you may have to sit a major star. And I hate to say that, but to wake up this team to get things rocking and rolling, you may have to sit down like a Holden Catoli type of player of his magnitude, because this team has not woken up, and they haven't woke up to a simple goalie change, and that goalie change was in the third quarter. So if they couldn't answer to that, and I don't know what they're going to answer to. And maybe they got to do what the Firewolves did. Maybe they got to switch up the offensive and defensive coordinates. It's the first time I've ever seen it, but heck, it worked for the Firewolves. Maybe they should try that. I don't know.
Might not hurt. You do have two Hall of Famers there, in Jason Wolski and Pat McCready. But I was going to say, I just want to make a quick correction. Philly's actually off next week.
Right.
But they will be facing Albany again in 2 weeks. This time at home, and we've seen
Rochester on Friday.
We've seen the last couple of years. Unfortunately, Caden doesn't want to hear this, but Rochester's kind of had Albany's number the last 2 or 3 years for the most part.
Aren't you glad they had such a good week?
On the scoreboard and in the fights department. If anyone remembers Ethan Woods and Rylan Hartley going at it.
But you didn't have to say it out loud.
But that's the thing, though. Like, other than Phil Caputo that kind of showed up, it set the tone of the game, got, one of the only players that went down low to make a goal, had gotten into a fight with somebody. He was the only one to me that kind of showed up. There was nobody that showed up. Right, yeah, on paper, Joe Russ-Terrence had 3 assists. But, that guy to be cold, Mitch Jones being cold, you're not supposed to be that. On paper, with that duo, facing a bottom of the barrel Albany team, and you want to talk about Rochester having Albany. Albany has the Phillies number for quite some time, and I'm afraid in 2 weeks they haven't learned their lesson, because if I'm Ian Rubel, I'm making sure these young guys. I'm doing whatever I can to coach these guys. Say, listen, don't think about the weekend. Don't think about clubbing. To you young cats, stay in and do some film work. You're going to need to do some film work. They need to take this break and get their heads right, get their heads out of their booties, and start playing. They need to start playing some lacrosse, because they're just about out of a playoff run.
I don't want to bring this up, Pat, because even though in a loss, Higgins made 47 saves. Even in a loss.
Yeah. Well, that's just what the point I was going to make is, this is an all-around bad effort, because you gave up 62 shots. Again, the defense is not showing up. Again, this is a consistent theme for, 2 years now? That the defense is just not showing up.
There it goes.
Yeah, I would feel bad for Deacon, not honestly, to put him in a situation like that, because, a young goaltender just getting whipped with rubber.
I'm curious, was the defense wearing those too, Pat?
Yeah.
Were the defense wearing those, and you got one from them?
Yeah.
Maybe they were, but
it's crazy.
I was going to say, maybe it's not a bad idea to, despite what Shawn said about, just the magnitude of shots. If you're going to give Deacon not the start, you give it to him at home. This is what Halifax did with Drew Hutchison when they decided to bench Hill. And look where Halifax has gone since starting Hutchison that game. It was that 1918 game. They, Clark Peterson saved them by the skin of their teeth at the buzzer. But look where they've gone since.
Yeah.
And
by all means, I'm not saying don't play Deacon.
Has been just as good as all the goalies that we've been talking about, and Higgins and Vince and Aiden Walsh, that we're talking about for goalie of the year. He's been putting up the same kind of numbers over the past 3-4 weeks since being benched. So maybe this is the time.
Maybe it is.
Maybe the answer is not so much switching up the coaching like Albany did. Maybe you just need to switch up what you're doing on defense and on offense. Maybe maybe Phil Caputo needs to be the quarterback for a game.
You know what, Mike? You're kind of spot on, because it wouldn't be a bad idea. Because listen, for the Philadelphia Wings, the pressure's on now, and this is the perfect time to see what you have in Deacon Knock. This is a sink or swim kind of a business. This is time to get this kid in there, get his feet wet, switch up a couple things like you just mentioned, and see where we go from there.
Oh yeah, don't misunderstand me, Mike. Sorry, don't misunderstand me. I definitely think they should be playing Deacon Knott. It's just he's going to be fighting an uphill battle, right?
Yeah, especially if he's seeing a lot of rubber. We know what that does to everyone. Just real quick back to the offense. Find a way to get these guys out of what I perceive anyway to be their routines on offense.
It's simple to me.
I think opposing defenses are starting to key in. It's okay. Hey, Mitch Jones isn't really going to shoot the ball. He might get a few goals, but he's looking to pass. So if you expect that 90% of the time when Mitch Jones has the ball in his stick that it's going to be going elsewhere, you're going to be able to plan better for that. If you're expecting Joe Resetarits to take the same shot from the same spot on the floor every single offensive shift where he takes a shot, it's going to get it's predictable. It's going to get easy to defend.
You're 100% right.
He's going to camp out in that same spot, and all you got to do is watch any Wings game. He's not taking a lot of shots from the top of, like near the restraining line. He's not taking shots from narrow angles. He's not getting behind the net like he used to in Rochester. Okay, Resetarits used to be a guy who would score on dunks from behind the net. You hardly ever see that from him anymore.
Yeah.
And you're 100% right, Mike. I mean, this is what I'm talking about. You're playing for Philly. Start playing bully ball. Get down there, get down the lane, and start driving the puck. Start driving the ball. You have the big bodies. You have Holmes Tony. You have Blaze Resetarits.
I was going to say, you're talking big bodies. Where's Blaze Reardon and all this?
I said that last week. There's been an APB for him. Where in the heck did he go?
And I was going to mention that, we talked last week about how Mitch Jones held that offensive team up last week, held the offensive side of that ball up last week. And where was the help from people like Caputo? Where was the help from people like Blaze? And yes, they both put up goals, but then in this case, Mitch Jones only held to a goal. In times of crisis, when Philly needs goals, and you're not just relying on Brennan O'Neill and Mitch Jones, the goals can't be found. But in a game where you're getting easily outplayed on the defensive side of the ball, you're not able to get the shots you need, but Blaze and Caputo and Holden are each able to put up a goal. It doesn't really bode well for the offense moving forward for the rest of the season.
Well, I hate to bring this up because it goes back a couple of years now, because when they lost Baptiste and lost all those face-off wins and all that possession time, they have never been able to make that back up. And it has affected their offense and their defense. Their defense is on 5 times as long as they ever were before. And by the third quarter, they're tired.
Yep.
And the offense, if they're taking, if they're taking the first shots in from just past the restraining line, well, basically the defense went to the bench to say hi and came back on the floor because they just lost possession and are shooting early on in that shot clock. They're not getting rest. So teams know it. And if they pressure and get those outside shots happening, then by the time they come back, the transition guys are worn out and the defensive guys are worn out. And that leaves it all up to 3 or 4 guys on the offense. And if they're on their hands, they're not coming either, as proven recently. And now those blueprints are out for all to see also. So a whole heap of differences happen.
I think you guys are hitting it on all cylinders because, like you just said, Gary, they're getting beat on the from the inside out. You're getting beat on the faceoffs. They're not winning the faceoff battles. As soon as they lost Batiste, the production there got crushed. I mean, you saw it this past Saturday. The Firewolves were out beating at the faceoff circle, and it's just like Mike just said. The offense is just way too predictable. They are going to start shooting from the outside. Why? It's they are a looking to pass then shoot team. No, you only need a couple guys to do that. Mitch Jones, if you're going to be the facilitator, then you just be the facilitator. Joe Russell-Terrence, you got to come up with something else other than your sweet spot to shoot at. It's not always going to work. There are film work out on you. These teams have film work. They are going to study you. This is what the coaches get paid to do, to slow you down, and it's up to you to make the adjustments. And Ian Rubel has not made any adjustments so far as the head coach to all the this team is on the canvas. This team is laying on the canvas, and the bell's at 8 right now. We're almost at 10, and they need to start making big adjustments. This is a perfect week to have the week off to zone in to the Firewoods and Rochester game and work out from there. The switching the goaltender might have to play a big part, but the offense itself, other than and Phil Caputo is just a role player. He's just he's a supporting cast member, but the stars of the movie need to come through. Mitch Jones needs to start what we signed up for. What we all signed up here as a Philadelphia fan is to get get him in here and start playing like the playmaker he was in Vancouver. We need those kind of guys. We need Hogan Tolley to start finding them. We need Blaze Reardon to start playing bully ball and start thumping the opposition. And that needs to start taking place.
And he hasn't been the same since a broken collarbone a couple of years back.
No.
From that point on, he broke it in Toronto, and from that point on, he has not been the same player.
Mm-mm.
I'm just going to throw one more thing out there with the face-offs. Obviously, Nathan Fair's kind of been thrown into the fire. He's done an admirable job. Tyler Burton is not what he once was at the dot. This name's been tossed around for a while by some folks in the Philly area. And I laughed it off at first, but now it makes more sense than ever. Why is Paul Day not making a call to Sean Williams to get Zach Cole? St. Joseph's product.
Yeah.
He's on the holdout list, I believe. I'd have to check that. I think he's on the holdout list. I don't think he's on the protected player list. So, protected player list, I would understand why you're not inquiring about him, because it's going to be clear that he's not playing this year.
Mm-hmm.
But if he's just on the holdout list, and if it's a geographical thing, because again, he went to school at St. Joseph's. How about making a move to get him in here if it's feasible for him?
There's always Jeff Snyder, Mike.
Yeah.
He's my guest on Thursday. I can ask him.
I do have 4 things that I wanted to mention about the game, and I want to start off with what Mike and Pat have been saying in his face-offs. Joe going 16 for 21 in the face-offs is huge. And that's obviously like a key thing for Philadelphia, is struggling at the face-off dot. And I mean, Pat, you've been preaching it. So I can't really speak much more on an aspect of that both Mike and Pat have preached on. The second thing is, yes, Ty Kurtz putting up 6 points is huge. 4 goals, 2 assists. But someone who kind of went under the radar, who I think probably had his best game and who may have solidified his spot in the lineup, is John Piatelli. 2 goals and 5 assists. He was all over the place. Coach sang his praises after the game. I mean, I even talked with the owner, Oliver Marty, during the game, and we both brought up Piatelli. It's in games where Piatelli is scoring that the Firewolves seem to have that fire. 2 goals in the Mammoth game, and the Firewolves won that one. 2 goals last night, and the Firewolves won that one. So it's, is it a situation of, should John Piatelli be playing every week now? In that case, I vote yes. I mean, obviously 5 points. Why wouldn't you not play him the next week? But I feel like he's, solidifying himself in the lineup finally, which is great. A guy who's kind of been up and down, in and out, kind of really struggling to get that permanent spot there, has kind of finally gotten that. And we even talked with him about that, and with Clarkey in the post-game press.
That's a good point. I'd be interested to know what Albany's record is in games where they go righty heavy versus lefty heavy.
The other thing that I wanted to mention was the Battle of the Dukes, the Dookie Battle, the battle of the first overall picks. I'm giving a shout out to my best friend. Shout out to Jared. He's a huge Duke fan. And so the battle between Dyson and Brennan, the battle of the Dukes and the battle of the first overall picks. Dyson wins it in the first go around. Dyson 4 points, a goal and 3 assists. Brennan only a goal. Granted, Brennan's goal was beautiful, but Dyson continuously is coming into his own. He's finally starting to feel more comfortable each and every week putting up those multi-point games. And that's something that, Firewolves fans have been waiting for. And once they continuously let him run with it, it's going to be, a good offensive structure when you're going to have guys like Kurtz, Simmons, Walker, Longboat, and Williams, just to name a few. And then I want to go over to Ethan Walker. Something that we haven't seen for Albany this year a lot is those hard cut to the net, dunk in goals. You're not finding it a lot. It's been a lot that teams have been able to, converge on. It's something that we have been saying throughout the year. I even talked with fans about it, that teams have tape. Teams know what the Firewolves are going to go for. They know they're going to go for those hard dunk-in goals. They're going to go from behind the net and try to go for those hard dunk-in goals. And they've been kind of, struggling to do that, which is also, evident in their record. But Ethan Walker doing that also kind of shows that I feel like that the Wings aren't doing, their research at all. Because look at every game before. You might have 1 or 2 opportunities on a huge dunk to the net like that. And Albany, isn't really able to convert. While Ethan with that goal was one of, I want to say, 4 or 5 opportunities in the game alone, his just being the one to go in.
Yeah. And it's fun too, again, Ethan Walker, like you just mentioned, that team, that Firewoods team, had something in store. Ty Kurtz, like you said, Ethan Walker making plays from behind the net. Like, they made plays from all over on the offensive zone. It was amazing. If there was Philly gave an opening and if they could smell blood with a misassignment, they took full advantage. And again, Tyson Kurtz was doing great. Shoot from distance, shooting those low balls. Then there was a time where he had to take it down the lane and score. I mean, he did phenomenal. And just watching this Philly Wings team just can't keep up. The defense, like I said, defense communications, the assignments look dreaded. And then, like I said, on offense, it just looks like there's miscommunication out there. The passing, the simple fundamental lacrosse things that you're supposed to be doing right, they do wrong, and it's just so mind-boggling. Like, everything this might even be worse than it was last year. I thought last year was pretty bad. I mean, this team is dreaded to watch. It's hard. I mean, your first half of the game, you only put up 2 goals, only 2. And they, I mean, yeah, you got things a little bit rocking and rolling in the third quarter. But again, back to 5. They have to be one of the top penalized teams in the league. I mean, 5 penalties, 5 trips to the penalty box, 4 of them were late in the fourth. I mean, it's not, that stuff's not going to help you out win games. A trip to the sin bin, I don't know if they know, is not going to help you win. It might be for a knucklehead Philly fan like my brother to get excited to see a fight, but it's not going to win. Fighting is not going to win games.
Coming from a Philadelphia guy, wow. I'm glad we have it.
Yes. Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
I'm glad I was
Pat,
here.
you mentioned that first half, and I don't know if you were listening to my little early on rant, Dougie making 23 of 25 in the first half. I mean, he was lights out in this game. He made 46 saves.
Yeah.
With Albany winning 11-6, 23 of 25 in that first half. I mean, another Dougie's best game this season, I think, first of all, just to start, but also just, a great all-around team performance. And for Dougie to put up 5,000 career minutes was great to see,
Right.
Yeah. Katie, you're right. I mean, he was a brick wall back there. I mean, look, as much as I'm getting hard on getting tough and hard on the offense, I mean, credit to the Firewoods goaltending, because Dougie didn't let anything go by. He was being a brick wall. I mean, he made sure, and there was nothing going to get through. I mean, the only thing that helped out Demu was a couple balls went off the goalpost, but other than that, no. Back to Dougie. I mean, he stayed in there like a locked in octopus, like nothing was going to get through him. So, but I gotta get rolling, guys, and so forth. So, but yeah, please, if you see me coming in here in 2 weeks from now, chewing on paper, I'm on my way. A trip to the Wackadoo house. So,
well, thank you, Pat. That was Pat Bernard.
No, absolutely.
He gets a week off, and then he gets to go at it again. So that's. I know Cade's got an early start also, so
I will be calling it here. I just do want to get one more thing out, and it was about Travis Longboat. Longboat's third game back with Albany. He played in the Buffalo game. He played last week. He played this week. Finally getting a goal. I heard it in the crowd. He's finally starting to look comfortable. A goal and an assist for Longboat in his third game. He's, after that injury. No, it was Marty again. My mistake. We were talking about it. He had a tough injury over the offseason, and for him to finally come back, finally starting to look, more comfortable is something the Firewolves are really, really lacking, is another piece of depth. And it's kind of talking to that John Piatelli aspect that I really talked a lot about Piatelli and how that depth and that 2 goals from Piatelli is huge, but also just having Longboat there and having Longboat able to put up a goal, 2 goals a night is just also huge.
Right. Alrighty, let's leave it there for this game and get to one of the other 6 games that we had over the weekend.
Well,
get right. By the way, Pat, congratulations. You won the week, 5-2 in the pick'ems. Pat is now in 4th, tied with Mike. So he's moving his way up the rankings. But thank you, Caden.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys. Have a good night. And free the bird, always, no matter what. Free the bird.
I think Caden's been flipping us the bird, but that's okay.
All right. Yeah. I was gonna say you should have let McDavid free, but there you go.
If I saw it right, it's now called the Golf of McDavid, but that's okay.
Yep.
Hey, let's move ourselves on to the first game of the week, and that was Halifax against Ottawa. Pat's friend there, Zach Higgins, was playing net, and he had a busy evening. But I say even in defeat, he still made 47 saves.
Yeah, 47 saves. Halifax takes the first of 2 meetings between the teams this year, 14-9. Big game from Randy Stotts, 4 goals and an assist. Almost as big a game from a man that we just can't stop talking about all month, Ryan Terefenko, a hat trick and an assist.
Yeah.
Again, please, whoever the people are at the league, this guy needs to be a finalist for Transition Player of the Year. 18 points in his last 4 games playing transition.
Yeah.
And I think 3 of those are hat trick games. So,
well, it's no fluke that Halifax is going how he goes. When he's having off nights, they're not winning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
2 goals and an assist for both Clark Peterson and Dawson Theed. And big welcome back to Nuncan Thompson, who had a pair of goals.
Beautiful goals at that.
On defense, yeah. So talk about that's really going to open up Halifax's transition game even more. And again, Warren Hill, we've been talking about ever since he got benched. He's been pretty stout in that 40 saves.
It got interesting though. It got interesting in the third, and I thought I was on the right side of this thing, and
it did. They were up.
Yeah.
They were up 7-2 at the half, and 7-3 at the half. A late goal, I believe, from Riley O'Connor, made it 7-3. Halifax, and then Ottawa came out guns blazing in the third quarter, and over probably the first 9 or 10 minutes of the third quarter, they proceeded to score another 5 goals to take an 8-7 lead.
They almost made the same mistake that Albany made and let Teat to himself, and Teat damn near killed him.
Yeah,
pair of goals, a couple of assists to go with it, and that's part of that 6-goal run.
Yeah, absolutely. Teat finished with a hat trick and 2 assists. Larson Sundown, another hat trick for him. The aforementioned Riley O'Connor had a goal and 2 assists. Same for Jacob Dunbar and Connor Kiernan. Kyle Matisse had 4 assists. And like we said, Higgins, 47 saves in the losing effort. So Halifax, they started the season 0-3, and they're 6-4 now, and they're sitting in third place. So,
right. Well, we talk about face-off guys, and Withers, he hasn't been the same this year.
No,
he didn't dominate at the dot. Yeah, 15 of 26. He won the battle. But really, I would have expected more. Yeah, we've seen him go and clean the slate, 22-0 and things like that. So,
yeah. I mean, I'm not too concerned about it because, as dominant as he has been, we've also seen games where he's dominated and the team is lost.
Yeah, sure.
So, yeah, we as much as we talk about how important it is to win face-offs, it's also important to do something with those face-offs you win. So, again, I still think Halifax this season is kind of playing in reverse of what it has the last few years, where they've generally gotten out to a hot start and then had a late season slump and kind of limped into the playoffs. They had the slump early in the season, losing their first 3, on the verge of going 0-4, and they've since gone 6-1. So,
right. You might just out of character for Ottawa though a little bit, because they've had a pretty good defense all season. And the last 16 minutes of this game, they were dominated.
Yeah, I might have a little concern there, but we've also kind of been talking about it for half the season now, that they can't just keep relying on
Higgins.
Jeff Heat to provide all the offense and Zach Higgins to steal the game. That there's got to be consistent secondary scoring, and when they're getting it out of guys like Dunbar and Kiernan and Larson Sundown, then yeah, they're fine. But on nights where Teat seems to be the only offense,
that's like last year.
Yeah. And if you find a way to shut down Teat, you're in trouble.
Well, it's interesting because everybody's back, and Kiernan's silent. Dunbar, this is probably the quietest game I've seen for him up this year, and it's just unfortunate they have picked a game where everybody have an off night at the same time.
Yeah,
Thornberry, he's been playing better than he has in the last few years, especially at the dot.
Yeah.
But again, I would have expected more from Withers, just strength alone. I think that Withers is a bull. So, but it didn't really come into matter. The other thing that I found was that Ottawa had no transition game in this game. Last week, that was part of the killer of taking down Albany before the big collapse happened. It was Marinier first off, and then a few other things happened. But the transition game put them off balance, and then the offense took over. There was no transition game to talk about in this game for Ottawa.
Yeah, I mean, maybe next week's chance to fix that. They are hosting Georgia, who they beat earlier in the season. So, Georgia's transition is not what it used to be, even with guys like Joey Capito, TJ Camizio, John Rannigan. So
Rannigan had a pretty good night last night. Capito, not so much. And I would say that everybody else was silent when it came that way. Camizio didn't even notice. But how's it going? Brian, welcome.
Brian.
But yeah, I didn't really see much last night in the way of that. I was busy being the Shane Jackson and Lyle and Miles show, really. We were wondering where Shane Jackson went. Well, he's been sitting in Toronto waiting. And we'll get to that in a little bit. Let's move on to the Saskatchewan-Vancouver game.
Yeah.
This was an interesting one.
This was a wild one. Interesting thing here. So obviously, Vancouver opened up the score with Adam Charlambides, but here's an interesting stat. Saskatchewan is undefeated when the opposing team scores first. And last year, I believe they were 1-8 at this time last year when the opposing team scores first. So boy, what a difference that has been. But after Charlambides, he got 2 goals from Brock Haley, and man, he this past week he was Rookie of the Week for, I think this is the 3rd week now this season. He had 4 points last night. I mean,
doesn't that look like a deal?
Oh yeah, and he's probably not going to be Rookie of the Year because he's not named Brendan O'Neill or Dyson Williams. But man, just consistency. Yeah, he has to be in that conversation. I mean, he's just consistent every time he's on the floor. What a steal. And then, Austin Shanks makes it 3-1 Saskatchewan. Riley Lowen and Kevin Crowley finish off the scoring score 3-3 after 1.
In the second about the one guy who is, when he's on, he is impossible to play against. And that's Triolo. And he's just come into his own this year. Completely.
He's just, he's really learned to use his size and his reach, that if he has a defender in front of him, he can just reach around and just make it use that defender as a screen just so easily just because of his height. And he's just learned how to do that so well and just push guys around just because he's so big. Yeah. And he gave the Rush the lead. Clark Walter, again, 6 points for Clark Walter, and he's been in and out of the lineup all year, but just when they need him, he's there. Then the weirdness happens. At 10:18 on the clock, Saskatchewan gets called for illegal substitution on a power play. So by rule, that's a penalty shot. Bobby Kidd III also got called for a holding on the breakaway, which also by rule is a penalty shot. So we had a double penalty shot, which Keegan Bell took both shots. He missed the first one, then scored on the second to make it 5-4 for Saskatchewan. Then the Rush took over. Again, they just wear you down. A 4-0 third quarter and 4 different goal scorers. Keenan, Shanks, Church, and Walter. Rush are up by 9.
Let alone Zach Mans is assisting on 2 of those 4. So the guys that are supposed to be scoring are scoring.
Yeah.
And
then you look
9 and 2.
And of those 2 goals, a Shanks goal assist by Boudreau and Jay. So you're getting transition. Again, Church assist by Boudreau and Walter. Again, you're getting transition. there's so many weapons on this team because your defensive guys can play both sides of the floor. And another thing let's talk about is Matt Kostiuk and the year he's had in that back end. He's got to be in the talk for Defensive Player of the Year now. I mean, he's just a rock back there, and just no one's getting by him. Again, he had 8 loose balls, 2 turnovers. He's just, since he's come back to Saskatchewan, he's just been unreal. So yeah, I mean, Church then on the power play makes it 10-4. Vancouver gets some late goals, 3 goals, but it was really kind of from there, Russia dominant, and now 9-2, and they have Buffalo at home next week for first place.
That's going to be interesting. That's going to be a very interesting game because Buffalo found a way to win last night.
Yeah,
late. But boy, that was a lot closer game than I thought it was going to be. All right, let's. We got one more game on the Friday, and this one surprised the heck out of me.
You get surprised everyone.
Yeah.
A win, I can see that, but 14-7 for Las Vegas over what happened to Colorado?
Yeah, I mean, at home, no less. I mean,
Yeah, the Loud House became the Silent House.
yeah, and I'll bring up a little point later. But just not much production out of Colorado. It doesn't help that Zed Williams got hurt. So he got hurt during the game and wasn't a factor. Will Malcolm, 2 goals, 4 assists. Connor Robinson had 2 goals and an assist. Connor Kelly had a goal and an assist. Eli McLaughlin with a goal and 2 assists. Dylan Ward, 33 saves on the night. For Las Vegas, finally, maybe a little bit of a breakout here.
Hey, Dave.
Hey, Dave. How are you? Thanks for tuning in. Jonathan Donville, 2 goals and 6 assists. Adam Patois had his first hat trick in his career, 3 goals and an assist. Jack Hanna, 2 goals and 5 assists. And talk about he's just doing it all for Vegas. So really that offense just kind of revolves around him. Casey Jackson had 2 goals and an assist. Then you had Jackson Webster with 2 goals and Brandon Goodwin with a pair of goals. And Landon Kells got the start in net, made 39 saves in the win. So, right. And Colorado was it was Marvel night, and they were sporting some pretty snazzy looking jerseys, Captain America. But I've noticed a recent trend. Seems like if you let's exclude the Tucker Out lymphoma jerseys. Most other theme night jerseys doesn't seem like the team that wears them does very well in those games. Last year or 2.
Just, I'm sorry.
So
yeah,
they're ugly. No, let's bid on them. No, thank you. My closet can do without them.
No, teams just seem to not be performing well.
It's true
in their theme night jerseys as of late.
Even Buffalo.
Yeah. I mean,
you can see how excited I am that the next home game in Toronto
might be
is
worth
the Marvel comic night, eh?
Might be worth looking up
I am with that one.
How teams are doing as of late. With that.
But what we talked about last week, of all the guys that were silent for Vegas that had to step up, well, they did. Look at Donville, two
Donville's big one.
Quatra, 3 goals.
They topped 13 goals, so for the second time this season. So after going through that 36 or whatever it was game streak where they didn't reach 13 goals.
And they also had Terrell Hammer Jackson that they signed this week. Now, he wasn't a huge factor, but a few loose balls just to add to the mix, just enough to throw things forward a little bit. So,
yeah, and that's one of the reasons I kind of made that suggestion earlier with the Philly thing with Zach Cole is, okay, if you got him on holdout and you think having Hammer Jackson is the answer at the dot, then now you have some trade value in Zach Cole.
Yeah.
And
But kudos to the Las Vegas defense because they shut down a really powerful Colorado team that's been rolling. Like even in losses, Colorado
They did.
has been scoring, and they were shut down altogether. Granted, Williams was hurt, but everybody else, when you're holding McLaughlin to a goal, you're holding the Ryan Lee to nothing.
Holding to 2 goals and a half. I mean,
Yeah, you're doing something right. So
I was curious too. All the talk about with Sean Williams. You think maybe that's a little bit of a fire, knowing that the coach might be on the hot seat?
I'd say so, especially after that doubleheader that they dropped the week before. So, I mean, now they're 3-8. They're still technically not in last place. and I mean, as bad as it looks, I mean, you have, and I know we're going to get to the Georgia-Toronto game, but you've got.
Paula Kells is watching, so yeah.
Thanks for tuning in.
Thank you very much.
You've got Toronto, Vegas, and Albany all at 3-8, and they're only a couple games behind Rochester at 5 wins, and there's a number of teams at 5-6 wins now that are kind of occupying that 7th through 11th spot. So, I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility. You get on a 3-4 game win streak, and suddenly
we've been saying this for weeks, right? That there's just too much talent for them to be sitting down in the bottom of the league. That eventually they're going to find a way to do it. Well, this is a pretty good example that when they're all working together, just how strong they can be. And I'm really even more impressed than the offense. Is I'm more impressed with the defense. Again, how they shut down Colorado. Kells played great, but the entire team came together and played just a spectacular game. Probably the best of the year, probably the best of the last couple of years. And with this type of talent, if they start believing in each other, they're going to be a very difficult team to play down the stretch.
So I agree with that.
100%, yeah.
But moving forward, the next game on our docket is the Toronto-Georgia game. And excuse me for a second while I sigh. There's the third 1-goal loss in a row at home, and the homestand is now over. Thank goodness. And we can move onward to elsewhere to see what we can do there. But this game was a very evenly matched game, right from the word go. Dawick scores on the power play. Caleb Benedict had a great game. He looked terrific for Georgia. I think this is probably the most comfortable he's looked since he's been back. Lyle Thompson, of course, you leave him alone. What's he going to do? He scored. This was just an absolute laser beam from the side. Unbelievable. Q finds him, and boom, it's in. Corey Small, he starts his big night on the power play off a Tom Schreiber pass and is tied 2-2. Thompson again, this time a little bit closer, off a Caleb Benedict pass, and it's 3-2. Small again. Nathan Grennan finds him, and from the center of the floor, a low-to-low shot that beats Brett Dobson, and it's 3-3 after 1. Second quarter, Shane Jackson wakes up. We've been talking about this for weeks. Where's Shane Jackson? He doesn't look the same since his MVP year and all the rest of it. Well, he's been waiting in Toronto, and he waited for this game. 3 goals, 3 assists. Pretty good game. First goal of the 3, he converts a Lyle Thompson pass. Again, Lyle and Miles involved in that. Miles is looking good. He's looking better and better. He doesn't take a second off. He's chugging along there. Even watching him get back to the bench and change the possession, he's chugging like he's running for his life. So it's great to see that he has that kind of oomph in him. Because when I saw him last year, and he was still just trying to work his way back with his knee, and he wasn't looking great. He's looking really good now. So that's a real big plus for for Georgia. Another one, I was talking with Sean Ferris later in the evening last night, of course, defensive coach for Georgia. And he brought up Jacob Hickey and what a great game he played. He was a monster back there. And that's the truth. You won't see it on the score sheet, but all the little things that he did were incredible. You know, he'd set picks. He'd be there for loose balls. He'd be there completely messing up with Toronto's transition and offense, and just had a monster game. We keep going in the second, and Toronto puts together a little bit of a run. Chris Boucher, followed by Small again with his third of the night, and Josh Dawick with his second. Now, something that I've noticed is with Toronto, when something works, they keep going back to it and back to it and back to it until they can't do it anymore. And lately, it's been Chris Boucher diving from behind the net and putting it in. Well, Dawick's been doing it now too, and he did it here. So what did Georgia do? They put a defenseman right on the goal line, and if you're diving, you're going to dive right into his knees. So that took that one away. But not before. We had an interesting play later in the game where Toronto thought they scored in the net. My internet's doing weird things, guys. Forgive me. When I start seeing you guys start flashing, I know that it's going to start doing crazy stuff. So be prepared to come across on this one. But they again went from behind the net and scored. And, on review, something that would look inconclusive to me was dead conclusive to our reffing crew. And they called back not once, but two of those goals because they'd stepped apparently on the line. So, yeah, what can you do? Can't win for losing. Anyways, Jordan McIntosh scores a beautiful transition goal at 6-5 for Toronto. Chris Boucher and Brian Cole exchange goals in the last minute. Brian Cole with 1.8 seconds, I believe, and beats Nick Rose, and a 7-6 at the half. Third quarter, interesting. A lot of end-to-end action. It was fast. No scoring. Both teams' defenses and goaltending stepped up big. It was not one of those, no, it was back and forth, lots of shots, lots of action, lots of transition, no goals. All of a sudden, the fourth quarter, the tap gets turned on again. Miles Thompson scores, ties the game up. Lyle Thompson scores right after him, 1 minute directly after him, and it's 8-7 for Georgia. Chris Boucher ties the thing up. Shane Jackson with a pair of goals. Now, the second goal, here's the interesting one. That 5-minute penalty thing again, right? Elijah Gash gets called for a 5-minute penalty for cross-checking because Lyle Thompson hit the ground, even though it looked like Lyle Thompson backed into him. But I had a tough time seeing it, because there was a Georgia player that was busy snap-marrying a Rock player to the ground at the same time. But we only saw the Lyle Thompson hit the ground, and that was good for 5. Even on review, it was still good for 5. Didn't see it, but hey, what do I know? Anyways, that first goal is Shane Jackson's. The second goal is Shane Jackson's, and it's 10-8. And that covers both goals on the 5-minute power play. Coming down to the end of the stretch, Toronto's down by 2, and lately their MO is come from behind and almost do it. Well, Corey Small hits with 2.5 minutes left, makes it 10-9. Then with 27 seconds left, Corey Small hits again with a low-to-low bouncer that beats Dobson's stick side to the corner. And we're going to overtime. And this wasn't one of those overtimes that was first shot and it's done. Another one of these things that back forth. It reminded me of the third quarter again. Back, forth, shot, change, bing, bang. Things going everywhere. And then 6 minutes and 28 seconds into said overtime period, this happens.
He's got one tonight. Brian Cole at the pick set. Now Thompson. Oh, whoa, from the baseline. How did that go in? Miles Thompson puts it away for the Swarm, and it is over.
Over it is. I'm telling you guys, that angle was insane. He was damn near on the goal line with a quick stick that beat Rose to the far corner. I think
That was a missed
you give
goal.
100 players that shot, and if you get 2, you're lucky. That was insane. For at least it wasn't a cheapie that won the game. But Georgia comes and wins this game, 11-10, giving Toronto yet another 1-goal loss. Easily could be 8-3, not 3-8. But it's a big win for Georgia because that's their 6th win. Georgia's 6-4 now, because otherwise they would be 5-5, and in the muck there. But wow. Oh, Prairie Tan's with us. There you go. It's one of you.
Right. 5 straight and 6 of 7 for the Rush.
But big nights in this game. Lyle Thompson, 3 goals, 4 assists. Shane Jackson, 3 goals, 3 assists. Lyle Thompson with a couple of goals. Corey Small, 5 goals. Josh Dawick, a pair of goals. Chris Bucci with a couple of goals. Big nights all around. Was it a good game? Yeah, damn good game. Was it the right result? It's the eye of the beholder, right? Yeah. I didn't get a gold bobblehead either. It's been a regular bobblehead. So Brad Cree's part of the collection now. Another one to agree with me. I like them. There's an army of them now, but nice one. This time it's to stick behind them. But yeah, I'll tell you, TD Erlin at the dot made his presence known. 20 for 26. He's back in fine form. Toronto went 2 for 3 on the power play. On the score, it said Georgia went 1 for 2. They actually went 2 for 2. It'll be 2 for 3 really, but because they got 2 on that 5-minute penalty, including the goal on the delayed penalty call because it was a 5-minute. What can I say? Georgia's starting to look better and better each week. Dobson looked a lot more comfortable. He made a lot of saves. That's the one thing is that he made 55 saves in this game. Georgia gave up a lot of shots, and something I discussed with Shawn was there were a lot of low percentage shots, outside shots, trying things from behind the net. They weren't in close, point blank, great goal scoring chances a lot of the time. So also I had to chat with Bill Fox, and we came a couple of things. One is, again, Toronto's relying on outside shooting if they're not diving from behind the net. And number 2, teams are starting to realize, we talked about it last week with Pat, that Nick Rowe's bounce shots around the feet are a little bit sketchy. And we're seeing a lot of low-to-low shots going one corner or the other. So, if it's going in the middle, he's got a great stick. But when getting around shuffling the feet, seems to be kryptonite right now. But Toronto goes on the road now. And, they've got a bye week this coming week because they can shake their heads. And then over to Halifax for the March 7th Friday night game, which doesn't seem like a walk in the park. So,
not anymore.
No.
And then at Vancouver after that. So Georgia's road isn't easy either. Next week they're at Ottawa. And then the week after, they are hosting Saskatchewan. And that should be interesting. Are they hosting the top team in the league, or are they hosting a pissed off Rush team that they didn't?
Either way, it's not going to be a good scenario for them now, is it?
I'm looking a couple of weeks ahead, and it's Philadelphia in Toronto. And is that going to be a battle of the basement, or is that going to be teams that have found their way back upward? So it's going to be interesting. That's Marvel Comic Night. Yeah. So get your sunglasses out for those jerseys.
Oh, boy.
First 2,000 get the comic book. So get there early.
It's Toronto wearing the jerseys.
Recent
results.
You mean it can get worse? What are you going to do?
I'm just saying, recent results.
Hey, they'll start shooting from the center line instead of outside.
I've seen worse. I've seen worse. Never mind. These poor eyes, if they could talk. I'm telling you. Anyways, let's move forward. Rochester. They faced Calgary and they had a great game.
Yeah, so maybe they're riding the ship. Hopefully, it's not too late for them. But
Why the Hutchcraft on the holdout list is an interesting thing, though.
It is.
Because Kevin Orleman's the backup now.
Yeah. And again, hey, we're approaching the trade deadline. So, could this be a precursor to something? Someone needing a backup goalie. But they beat Calgary 15-10. 8 different goal scorers for Rochester, led by Thomas McConvey, who had 5 goals and 2 assists. Connor Fields, 2 goals and 7 assists. You had Kyle Waters with 2 and 2. Ryan Smith had 2 goals and an assist. Ryan Lanchberry had a goal and 6 assists. And Hartley had 42 saves, looks like, on the night. And Rochester winning despite Calgary going 18 for 27 on faceoffs. So Justin Inacio definitely had his way with Sisselberger at the dot.
Wasn't it great to see Tyler Biles back in fine form?
Oh boy!
Because I had Stephen Orleman on as my guest, and of course Stephen backup goalie for the Buffalo Bandits. But we were both in the Brampton organization at the same time. He was the missing piece towards going for the Minto Cup run. But that team also had Tyler Biles on it. That team had Jeff Teat. That team had Clark Peterson. That team had Josh Medeiros. That team had a number of guys that just would make your head go, "Wow, what a team!" Yeah. And of course, what was the one team that stopped them in the Minto Cup was Coquitlam with Christian Del Bianco.
Of course, yeah.
One and only Minto Cup. So, hell of a Minto Cup. A lot of controversy in that one too, but we'll save that for another day. But Tyler Biles back in fine form at the end of this game.
Racking up the penalty minutes for sure. Him and David Brock, I think, are they're both gunning for the record.
Well, he almost had as many penalty minutes as Hostrauser did at the end of the Buffalo game, right?
Yeah.
Hostrauser, I think, had 37 minutes. He had 27 minutes. He was trying hard enough.
Yeah. Not a lot of production from Calgary either. Curtis Dixon, 4 goals, 5 assists. Hayden Dixon, 2 goals and an assist. Then it kind of drops off from there. Tanner Cook, Jesse King, Dane Doby each had a goal and 2 assists. Cam McLeod was pulled after goal number 6 early in the second quarter. Goa Abrams came in. I think he stopped 6 of 11, and then McLeod came back in the second half. So, there was kind of some rumblings. Hey, was McLeod maybe given too short of a leash?
And what? Sorry, Mike, to interrupt you, because last week against Saskatchewan, the same thing happened, and the same questions came up where they pulled Cam McLeod really quickly. And then, Golem came in, and then they brought him back to Cam McLeod. So it is interesting.
Yeah. You have to wonder if they're maybe considering giving Abrams a look, at a start. It's kind of odd that these goalie controversies kind of seem to in and out, with some of these teams, where it's not getting cut and dry. I mean, Rochester. Rochester improves to 5-7. Obviously, they've got more games under their belt than everyone else right now. So they are going to be kind of sitting back and watching other things move around. on certain weeks without them. But, they're only a half game out of that 8th place spot. Right now, there's a 3-way tie, technically, for 8th place. So, I think if you're Rochester, you got to feel pretty good despite all the up and down about where you're at. Where we've been talking about 9-9, maybe 8-10. I'm starting to lean a little bit away from 8-10 at this point. But, with all these teams being around 500, all the way down to 11th place, it's still not out of the realm of possibility. For Calgary, talk about squandering a chance. They could have really put a little bit of distance between themselves and everyone else, but Buffalo and Saskatchewan, they would have been 7-3 and firmly in 3rd place.
Mm-hmm.
Now they're 6-4. I'm sorry, 6-4 or 6-5. And they've kind of dropped. Sorry, 6-5. They were 6-4. Now they've kind of dropped to 6th place, and have a bunch of teams kind of nipping at their heels.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Yeah. Another question I have, just like curiosity too, is a lot of teams have been playing Dane Dobie quite physically last couple weeks and really shut him down. Have teams figured him out?
Well, they know they're going to give, if nothing else, they're going to get him off his game because he's fairly vocal when he's getting hit.
Yeah.
And he's not as young as he used to be. So he's not fleet of foot either. Still got great hands. Still got a great shot. But if you can get at him, it will affect his game. Dixon, not so much, because he's always been the athletic guy and the one who's diving all over the place. But Dobie has always relied on being able to get that space and get that shot. So if they're crowding him, he's still going to have those games where he's going to kill you. Just ask Caden. But not nearly as often.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting point. I guess I'd say let's wait and see if that trend continues, because here's their next 3 over the next 3 weeks. At Colorado, and then you have a home and home with Buffalo.
Oh, that's a rough schedule.
The Buffalo one's going to really show it, because they're going to get right on them.
Oh, and that's 2. So
yeah,
it's at Colorado, then at Buffalo, and then you're home against Buffalo the next 3 weeks. So,
then that's a couple weeks ahead, because depending on what happens on the first, you could be up against a pissed off Buffalo team.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Definitely, because this is going to be interesting this weekend too. Coming up, it's going to be huge. But Buffalo is starting to get the injury bug too. They got a couple of defensemen down, so they're starting to move guys in and around. So let's see how this plays out. This Buffalo game surprised me, because remember after the week earlier, there was a lot of these ones floating around, right? A few salties.
Yeah.
But Buffalo, I would have expected them to come out. In fact, I was, when I was talking with Orleman about it, was they're going to come out pissed off and fast. And that didn't happen. Jake Govett got their crowd rolling. They had a great crowd for this game, too. A lot of Bandit fans went out there, but they had for Pechanga, from what I remember, this was a really good crowd, and they were a noisy crowd. Now, the one thing I did know when I went out there the last time was they are the ones who aren't as educated were getting educated. So it's been a whole year, so they've gotten more educated, and it's a fun crowd. They have a lot of fun in there as well. So it was a great atmosphere. But Govett opened up the scoring. Dane Smith tied it up, and that's basically the way this thing was going all night long. Trey LaCara gives San Diego the lead. Chase Fraser ties it up. Trey LaCara again with the lead, and Buchanan Priolo, good old Priolo with a coast-to-coaster
Yeah.
And Buffalo is in their first lead of the night with a couple of minutes to go. But that doesn't stop San Diego. Westberg and Kyle Jackson with just 5 seconds left in the quarter. And San Diego's up 5-4 after one. Now, if you weren't surprised at that one, I was on my way back from the Rock game and it was on in the car and it's like, huh?
Yeah, I know. I was looking at the score too. I'm like, what's going on here?
And then Dylan Watson scores on the power play and it's 6-4. Huh? Then, of course, Byrne, Fraser do their thing. Byrne in transition, though, because Connor Farrell wins a faceoff. Nick Weiss finds Byrne, and boom, off it goes. So really just 19 seconds, 19 or 20 seconds after the last goal, and that's it. And it's won. Just seconds after that, again, off a Farrell win, Chase Scanlon finds Chase Fraser. Or Clay Scan, sorry.
Clay Scan.
So many Scanlons around here. Finds Chase Fraser, and it's tied. Again, this doesn't phase San Diego. Dylan Watson, they're still working. Watson, about 5 minutes later on the power play, and they have the lead again. Kyle Buchanan ties it up. Chris Kluche off a Dane Smith fast on the side of the net, and Buffalo has the lead again. With only a couple of minutes left, Logan comes and ties this game up, and we're 8-8 heading to the half. Again, are we surprised at this? I am.
Oh, yeah.
I for sure thought Buffalo would be up by 4 or 5 going into the half. I really thought that this was, going to be the A-Bandit squad, just absolutely, smelling blood in the water. It took all of 35 seconds in the second half for San Diego to take the lead again, and Dylan Watson again. If there's a guy that has replaced and made everybody forget about Jacob Dunbar, it is Dylan Watson. Because the little I have seen of him and seeing him live, he is a digger. And he will go into all the dirty areas. He will dig the ball out of the corner. He will, put his body on the line, and he will go inside and pay the price to score, and he does. Westberg on the power play, 10-8. Here comes Buffalo. Don't count them out. Dane Smith. Ian McKay, who had been quiet all night long. Tehoka Nanakok on the power play, doing what he does off a Josh Byrne feed. And Buffalo's in the lead again. Trey Leclerc ties it up under a minute to go again. That's a big theme here, and same thing happened in Toronto with Buffalo. Kind of let their guard down at the end of the quarters. 11-11 heading to the fourth. I asked the question again. Is anybody as surprised as I was, as I'm now home watching this? Scanlon gives Buffalo the lead again. And this goes through the majority of the quarter. Trey Leclerc ties it up with just under 5 minutes to go. And wow, this is going to be one heck of an ending. Buchanan scores just seconds later, and it's 13-12 Buffalo, but there's still almost 4.5 minutes left in the game. Matt Vince's goalie of the year, why? 8 times?
Yeah.
Because of stuff like this. But I got to give props to Chris Origlieri.
Yeah, hell of a game.
He was sensational in this game. Absolutely sensational in this game. He faced, I don't know how many different scenarios of Buffalo just absolutely blitzing. And he came out on top almost every time.
I was going to say a lot of credit to San Diego's defense, too, because what have we said over and over again? Buffalo scores in bunches. Buffalo didn't get anything more than a 3-goal run throughout this game.
Right.
Like they held them away from those, 4, 5, 6 goal runs that really kill you.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And then, you look at loose balls, man. Priolo had 10. Danny Logan had 10 loose balls in this game. Connor Farrell at the dot was 500. Now, granted, a couple of those wins were major because they turned into goals. But the one that really stands out to me, James Riley, a name that we're not really used to hearing. And the last couple of games, he's been doing the faceoffs, and he's been doing a great job at it. And 14 out of 28 is a pretty good thing against someone like Connor Farrell.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Huge. Because if it goes the other way around, any which way, I think that this score is different. But, Westberg had a great game, 2 goals, 4 assists. Trey Leclerc, 4 goals in this game. Dylan Watson, 3 goals, 3 assists. Like I say, also, 6 loose balls. 5 turnovers, right?
Yeah.
But, again, this team, Jake Govett, they're finding production from guys they're not getting a lot of production from.
Yeah, and let's not forget that Seals are without Ryan Benesh. They're without Kyle Rubish.
Trevor Baptiste.
So
Yeah.
little name there. That's
those are 3 kind of important cogs.
Yeah, all 3 of them are also are posts to where they are, right?
They're posts, no doubt. But I'm going to take a devil's advocate kind of approach to this, though. Now you've gone with a younger lineup, and you pushed one of the top teams in the league.
And Buffalo. Oh, never mind.
In
Sorry.
Buffalo.
I thought you were talking
So I think that has something to say to that, too, a little bit.
Buffalo's only blemish to this point, too, right?
Yeah. Like, I don't want to take away anything from any of those players. They are all-star players, but what have we been saying with the Seals since the beginning of the season? They're getting long in the tooth.
Yeah, well, they're getting an opportunity now to show some of the other guys, and you know what? They're taking the opportunity. Yeah, Hellier's still doing his thing. He's quarterbacking. He got 4 assists in this thing. Trent DeChico, he had 5 loose balls, though he didn't have a lot on the score sheet. He's still, doing a lot of extra work away from the ball.
Yep.
Matt Wright is going to be a good guy. He didn't play this one, but he's going to be a good player. Watching him a couple of weeks ago in Toronto, he's an excellent player. But Dylan Watson is the one that stood out to me the last few weeks. And I think him and Ty Thompson is humongous and really knows how, not quite as big as Triolo, but close, and really knows how to use his size as well.
Yeah.
So when he's not doing things that don't wind up on the score sheet, he's setting monster picks. And, that's certainly freeing up things for Westberg to come around and score. And Westberg of late has, granted, he didn't have 6 goals like he did last week, but 6 points still. Everybody's picking up everybody. Like I say, Leclerc, he had a game of games. Kyle Jackson with a goal and 4 assists. So guys are in there. You would have thought that with Courier not playing, that would have been a big thing too, because he had to leave to his wife having a baby, I believe. But I don't know. This San Diego team again. Now they're sitting in and around the 500 mark. Where do we go with them? Anybody convinced on they're moving upward or downward? I'm not. Because they're great.
Well, this is one of those 5 teams that the 3 of us and Pat, I believe, picked too. When we made our preseason picks, we each picked the same. Well, we each picked the same 5 teams. I believe it was Georgia, Toronto, Buffalo, Albany, San Diego, maybe.
I was going to say, it's interesting because I think Gary's the one who did not pick San Diego to make the playoffs. And you know what? He could be right.
I just thought that they were a little long in the tooth. But I'm being proven wrong with young guys coming in the lineup now. And here's the other thing to think about is the veterans, even though they're off hurt now, are getting the rest they need for the push to get in the playoffs and maybe a playoff run. They're not trying to be 18-0 and playing everybody every week and traveling all over the place trying to do this grueling schedule.
True.
Yeah.
They do have a bye next week. Then they're home against Vancouver.
Which will be a good game. That'll be
Yeah,
another big
yeah.
Yeah.
Because Vancouver won the first one, and then they're home against Las Vegas. So
Right. Upcoming next week, we only have 5 games on the docket, but all of them are pivotal. Georgia, Ottawa, pivotal. Ottawa needs to get right. Georgia's had a couple of well, they had a bye week and a loss, so this was one to get them back upward. But again, I'm not convinced. I'm just not convinced about Georgia right now because they look great in 1 minute and they look kind of weird in another minute. So let's see if they can take Ottawa to task. I will be more of a believer. Albany, Rochester is Albany's newfound freedom for real. Is Rochester's 2-game winning streak for real? This could be either a 2-1 game or another 19-18 game. Anything's possible with both of these teams because they all have all the pieces to do both. So another one that's I would like to, if I can find a way to out there, I might. Just might. Buffalo, Saskatchewan, of course, that's the game of the week.
Yeah.
That is circled. That's the game of the week. Calgary, Colorado. Both teams had a miserable week this week. Both teams need to find a way up if they want to find a way to really ramp up because, we're in the second half of the season now. It just keeps rolling along. We're in March next week. Halifax and Vegas. If you asked me a week ago, 2 weeks ago, I wouldn't even think about the answer. Now I got to start putting some thought into this one. Is what we saw on Friday real? Can they do that week in and week out? That's what winners do. Otherwise, it's known as a fluke. I don't think it was a fluke. I think it was a realization. But can they do it on a consistent basis? Still a young team to replicate that week in and week out.
Yep.
That's what Saskatchewan and that's what Buffalo are doing. That's what winners do, is find ways to win. You don't talk about Buffalo. Yeah, they won 13-12. They found a way to win. Buffalo won by 13-12 over Toronto. They found a way to win. A couple of times they came from behind and found ways to win. In fact, the game they lost, they almost found a way to win by going to overtime and being leading with under a minute to go, under 30 seconds to go.
And you want to talk about the naysayers of Saskatchewan saying, well, who have they beaten? Hey,
Anybody
they beat who's in front of them. They beat who's in front of them. That's all you got to do. Doesn't matter.
I would say in the playoffs, who cares? Because by the time it gets to whatever game you're playing, upsets happen. And if you're playing a team that's in 8th instead of a team that was supposed to be in 2nd, you beat them, right? That's what you lift a cup.
Yeah.
Doesn't really matter.
Yeah, you just have to beat who's in front of you.
That's excuses. And I would say that Saskatchewan's beaten a fair amount of good talent along the way already. Were they 500? Who cares? The teams every team is stacked in this league. Like I said with Toronto, they easily could be 8-3 instead of 3-8. You're telling me that Toronto's not a viable team that's going to make other teams sweat? They can beat anybody.
Not a chance. Yeah.
yeah, and let's.
They beat Colorado.
Well, I was actually going to get to that with Buffalo. Buffalo hasn't played Colorado. Buffalo hasn't played Calgary. Buffalo hasn't played Halifax. Buffalo hasn't played Georgia. So
Buffalo hasn't played Vancouver.
They haven't played Vancouver either. And Saskatchewan's beaten Vancouver. Saskatchewan has beaten Calgary.
Exactly. So this narrative that Saskatchewan hasn't beaten anyone good, neither has Buffalo.
Hey,
they haven't played anyone with a over 500 record.
Hey.
If they played anyone with an over 500 record, they were 1-0, 2-0, 2-1. It was early in the season.
You're hurting me, Mike.
So just this narrative that's come out that
And
Saskatchewan
again, for Mike,
only looks good
the answer in
because
Saskatchewan when people say that you haven't beaten anybody.
But even those Saskatchewan losses,
no, I mean, I just wanted to point out that Buffalo's in the same boat.
even those Saskatchewan losses, they were a team without Shanks and Church when they lost to Philly in overtime, and they lost to a very good and healthy Rock team. That's it.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. That's why I say this week's game against Buffalo.
It's gonna be a clinic.
It's going to be something that we're all going to be basing what we're going to be seeing down the stretch off of what we're seeing in this game, because both teams have a couple of bumps, but are pretty much healthy, and both teams have the week resting. It's not 2 games and drag your butts to the next one. So Buffalo is going to be coming in early, getting themselves adjusted, have their shoot arounds and do everything as normal weeks are. And so there will be no excuses.
No.
Orleman said he's probably going to spend a time with a polar bear at the airport, though.
And hey, SaskTel Center, that's not an easy place to play in.
Yeah, we were talking about that, low ceilings and the noise, but they're used to Bandit Land. Well, this is going to be the opposite. This is when a team comes into Bandit Land. Well, now they're going into SaskTel, and that can be exactly the same atmosphere.
May not as much people, but it's going to be just as loud.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think they're going to get a pretty good crowd. And Bandit fans travel. So,
yep.
Yeah, they have to find it on a map, but they'll figure it out. They'll figure it out. The connections going to Calgary and then back is always interesting.
That's a fun one, yeah.
I love it myself. Spent many an hour in the Calgary airport waiting to go back to Saskatoon. But I can go straight from Saskatoon to Toronto on the way home.
Figure that out.
You know what? If I have to go further, I'm glad it's not on the way home, because usually the next morning I'm fairly tired. I don't want to fly to Calgary to come back to. Never mind. I'll never figure out this stuff as long as it lands on the front on the wheels. So we're good. Anyways, I just want to remind everybody that we are on Facebook, we are on Twitter, X, we're on Instagram, we are on Thread, and we are also on YouTube, as well as on streampunkentertainment.com. Please visit us 3, 4, 5 times a day, because things are always changing, and we will get it to you as soon as it is there to be got. We always have our fingers on the pulse of the situation. It is our privilege to be able to give you all the information up to date, up on time. Last words, Shawn, in the beautiful Canadian jersey.
Yeah, exactly. What more can be said about that Rush game next week? I mean, I'll be there for full coverage, and man, I know the attendance has been down at SaskTel Center, but man, I hope the Rush fans come out for this one, because it is going, like you said, it's going to be the game of the year. It's going to be an amazing, amazing game with really 2 talented teams.
Absolutely. Last words to Mike.
Kind of hoping Buffalo scores first, given that stat.
Yeah. It's a weird stat, but it's true.
No, I mean, they, like you said, I mean, it's only 5 games next week, but all of them are pivotal. I mean, even Halifax, Vegas. I mean, if Vegas can start a win streak, they can suddenly put themselves in the playoff picture. If Halifax wins, now you're talking they're at 7 wins. Kind of breathing down Buffalo and Saskatchewan's neck. So, and they have to play Saskatchewan again, and they have to play Buffalo later in the season. So,
right. Yeah, no, I'm with Shawn. I'm looking forward to seeing that Buffalo game. I'm looking forward to all those games, really, because there are really some pivotal games in there. The other game that really stands out to me, believe it or not, is the Albany-Rochester game. I'm really looking forward to watching that one as well. And I think that's going to be a heck of a game. And, that should be everything. Oh, Dave. night, Dave. Thanks for joining.
Dave.
Appreciate you sticking
Thanks,
around.
Dave.
But yeah, it's that as well. So I think that's right. And for you, retro buffs, I have Jeff Snyder on my show this coming week, and that's going to be exciting. And the following week, I have Paul Dawson on the show. So that's also going to be a big one. Mike Trollo's coming on the show in a few weeks down the road as well. So another one that's going to be really worthwhile interview-wise. So there's a number of big guests coming up. So stick around. It's also on this network now, on the Streampunk Network, and Thursdays at 4. So part of the family. All right. That'll do us for this week. Remember, we are here every week at 8 p.m. Sunday nights. Please join us. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell your coworkers, tell everybody. And we hope to see you all again next week at this very same time. Remember, keep your sticks high and your spirits higher. And until we meet again, have a great week, and we will see you all next week.